The Sun and Wayward Stars by ThBiButterfly, Chapter 7, Clever and Useful. A deep sigh escaped Remus. Sirius is something, alright. Why'd you say it like that? That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Actually, he slid his hand into his sandy curls and gripped the roots. I know you're queer, and I was hoping if you'd know if he is too. How do you know that? Regulus demanded, tugging fretfully at his shirt sleeves. The only people who knew were his close friends and a couple of Hufflepuffs he dated secretly last year. All were sworn to silence, though. Releasing his curls, Remus rolled his head to the side. I know what to look for, he replied casually, his gaze locked on Regulus. You're not as subtle as you think. A frown settled on his face. What gave me away? He needed to know where he'd slipped up to prevent it from happening again. You stare at fit blokes a little too long to be straight. That's it? Regulus asked, crossing his arms over his chest. Remus smirked. To be fair, I wasn't entirely sure, but you just confirmed it. Clever, Lupin. Regulus acquiesced. No idea how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. I'd appreciate it if you kept that to yourself. Of course, Remus agreed. I'd appreciate it if you were done the favor. You too. Shrugging, Remus gave him a lopsided smile. Let's just say I like both sides of the coin. And one of those sides is my brother? Regulus asked, lips twitching as he buried a smile. I did not say that, Remus refuted, pointing at him accusingly. Regulus snorted a laugh. You didn't deny it either. An important distinction. Understood, Regulus acknowledged. He studied Remus for a long moment, then huffed a laugh. To be honest, you probably know him better than I do at this point. He doesn't talk to me about who he fancies. Remus sighed heavily. I was afraid of that, but I can't ask James because he'll tell Sirius. They don't keep many secrets from each other. He rubbed a hand over his face. It's daft to even consider it. He's one of my best mates, for fuck's sake. Not at all. I can tell that he gets particularly excited to see you. Noticed that late last year, and have used it to my advantage when I needed distraction, Regulus admitted. He held up his hands. Sorry, not sorry. You think so? Remus asked, chewing his bottom lip. Regulus ignored. Can't say if it's an reaction or not, though. Sirius is rather excitable as a person. His head tipped to the side as a correlation hit. Maybe that's why his animagus is a dog. A choked laugh escaped Remus. He told you he was an animagus. Showed me more like it, Regulus confirmed, rolling his eyes. Bloody huge beast. Flatfoot can be a bit more intimidating at first, Remus acknowledged. Especially if he's prowling around in the dark. He loves to jump out and startle Peter. Regulus released an amused breath. Why am I not surprised? So, if you know about pet food, Remus trailed off leadingly. I'm at Prongs too, Regulus added, and I heard about Wormtail. Regulus arched an eyebrow. Thoughts on the antlered woodland creature? It's big, Regulus replied, sending Remus into another laughing fit. When a double entity sunk in, he groaned. Oh, shut it, that's not what I meant. Waving him off, Remus pulled himself together. It was too easy. You're just like Sirius. You walk right into it. Regulus scrunched up his face. My mind doesn't immediately go there, Lupin. He frowned, tapping his chin thoughtfully. They didn't mention you, however. Are you an animagus too? No, definitely not, Remus replied, sobering instantly. They are complete twats for trying it. So bloody dangerous. That's what I said, Regulus exclaimed, holding his hands out. Glad one of you isn't completely mental. Nodding, Remus cleared his throat. I'm sure they had a good reason, though. They might be reckless, but not usually without cause. If you say so. Most of the time. Remus came to an abrupt stop mid-sentence. He sniffed the air and frowned. Head swiveled towards the door, and he narrowed his eyes. Glancing back at Remus, he put a finger to his lips. Remus pointed out his wand and flicked it at the door. The door flew open, and 3 figures fell inside, crashing to the floor. Eavesdropping is quite rude, Remus commented, leaning casually against the wall. I told you he'd hear us, Sirius huffed, shoving Potter off his lap and jumping to his feet. It was his idea. Peter squatted on his back, tipping his head back to look at Remus upside down. Sorry, Remus, we were just curious. Hear anything interesting? Regulus asked, an eyebrow arched high on his forehead. Not really, no, Sirius answered, shrugging. Potter snorted a laugh. Except for the prick joke, of course. He smirked at Regulus. Can't believe you fell for that one. It's his personal favorite. Shut it. It's not that funny. Sirius scowled, swatting Potter's shoulder. He's my little brother, for Merlin's sake. He's not a child, Sirius, Remus retorted, lifting his chin defiantly. Don't take it personally, Moons, Sirius replied, smiling softly at the taller boy. Just trying to protect his innocence. Regulus let out a startled laugh. My what? Sirius, you don't honestly think. Sirius's head snapped towards him. Do not finish that sentence. He seized his wand from his pocket and put it at Regulus. I swear I will hex you. All right, Regulus defended, holding up his hands. You should know I'm unarmed. Why? Where's your wand? Sirius asked, lowering his own. Regulus shrugged. Lost it in here yesterday. Was looking for it when Remus came in. Sirius nodded. Asio wand. He glanced around with a frown. I don't think it's here, Reggie. Sorted that out ourselves, actually, Remus snarked, rolling his eyes. Potter shifted from foot to foot, then reached down to haul Peter upright. Up you get, mate. It should be in here, Regulus replied, ruffling his hair in frustration. I can't think of where else it could be. I had it when I came from the Quidditch practice. I remember that. Remus lifted from the wall and moved to stand next to him, eyeing Potter with interest. He leaned an elbow on Regulus's shoulder. James, you don't happen to know where Regulus's wand is, do you? Of course not, Sirius answered for him. We spent yesterday evening playing gobstones. I doubt he'd even came into the library yesterday, right? He glanced over at Potter, who was entirely too focused on straightening a stack of books on the desk. Can't recall, Potter replied. He turned to Peter and handed him one of the books. Hey, Pete, don't you need this one for divinations? Peter scrambled to his feet and reached for it eagerly. Yes, actually, good memory. He then launched into a detailed explanation of the essay he was writing about ours. Regulus glanced from Remus to Potter, curious about the odd tension between them. Potter seemed to be doing his best to ignore the skeptical glare aimed his way, feigning a great interest in Peter's aura description. Sirius grumbled in French under his breath, complaining about the divination teacher to no one in particular. Regulus huffed an amused breath at his colorful language, then noticed the arm Remus rested on his shoulder tense. Turning towards Regulus, Remus asked, I take it you speak French as well? By the way, they're here speaking French. I cannot speak French. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying, so I'm just going to read the translation. Deal with it. So this sentence is in French. Yes, it's our first language, Regulus replied, his pronunciation far more elegant than his brother's. Sirius never cared about such beauty much for the beauty of the language, but often slipped into it when annoyed or frustrated. "Do you think you can translate for me?" Remus whispered, glancing at Sirius and then meeting Regulus's gaze pointedly. "Mm-hmm," Regulus agreed. "But so could Sirius." Remus shook his head. "I don't want him to know." "Ah, understood," Regulus answered quietly, leaning closer. "Does he talk to you in French, knowing you don't understand?" "Sometimes," Remus acknowledged. "I've tried to look it up, but I'm too rubbish at Romance languages. Welsh is so much more intuitive." Regulus pointed at him. "That's the accent I'm hearing. It's faint, but you still have it." Too much time in Scotland," Remus said, grinning wildly. "When I go home, my mom scoffs about it. It's quite entertaining." "Oi, what are you whispering about?" Sirius demanded, eyes flickering between the two of them. Potter strained it as he followed Sirius's gaze. "What's going on?" "Mind your own," Remus huffed, draping his arm over Regulus's shoulder. He smirked at Sirius and Potter. "Have to say, I like this one. He's clever and useful, more than I can say of you lot." Sirius gaped at him. "Remus!" A deep frown settled over Potter's features. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Fit too," Peter added, then clammed a hand over his mouth. "Well spotted, Peter," Remus approved, flashing a bright smile at him. "Regulus is quite fit, don't you think?" Regulus's eyes widened and he elbowed Remus frantically. The smirk on Remus's face broadened exponentially at the ribbing. He leaned more heavily on Regulus, nearly hugging him. Potter's brows knit together in confusion as he looked between Remus and Regulus. "What's happening?" Regulus whispered to Remus. "Just go with it," Remus recommended, looking down at him with a smug grin. He brushed back Regulus's hair. "You know, now that I see it on you, long hair on a bloke is incredibly attractive." A subtle wink gave the game away. Ah, fake flirting. This he could manage. Regulus eyed Remus's curly hair and smirked back at him. "Rather fond of the curls myself." Remus clicked his tongue approvingly. Sirius gasped. "Regulus Arcturus Black!" He charged across the room and waved his wand at them. "I don't know what the actual fuck is going on there, but stop it right now." Grabbing hold of Regulus's arm, he dragged him away from Remus. "Oh, come off it, Sirius. You and James flirt all the time," Peter teased, probing his hands on his hips. "That is not the same thing," Sirius shouted, wrapping his arms tight around Regulus. "We are taking the piss out of each other. That," he pointed at Remus, "was not funny." Potter hummed in agreement, but kept his comments to himself. He'd moved closer to Sirius and eyed Remus with a quizzical expression. Regulus tried to unravel from Sirius's embrace, but found himself firmly crushed against his brother's chest. It was ridiculous. This is again in French. "Are you jealous that someone is as lovely as Remus finds me handsome?" Regulus accused, pushing against his chest. "Or are you just a prat?" Sirius snorted dervishly. "Don't be ridiculous. He's not interested in blokes." "I am," Regulus snarked, glaring at him. "Pardon?" Sirius gasped dramatically, clasping his hand to his chest. "I had no idea. Since when?" Now back to English. "Enough!" Potter interrupted, eyes wide and overwhelmed. "English, please." "None!" Sirius and Regulus exclaimed in unison. Potter jumped back, hands held up in surrender. Regulus wrenched free of Sirius and jerked his chin up defiantly. Remus snorted a laugh at Potter's panicked expression, crossing the room in 3 long strides. He dropped his hand down to Regulus's level and arched an eyebrow high on his forehead. "You know where to find me, should you like to continue our discussion, biting his bottom lip teasingly. Remus stroked one finger along Regulus's jaw. Those black family cheekbones. Always was a fan. Regulus relaxed, flashing a smug grin. From you? That's quite a compliment, Remus. Abso-fucking-lutely not, Sirius burst out, swatting at Remus's hands. Potter muttered under his breath, this is completely mental. You know, I'm not buzzy right now, Regulus suggested, reaching out to cup Remus's elbow. Care for a walk? Really? That would be fantastic. I'd love to explore your brain, Remus replied, wiggling his eyebrows suggestively. Regulus burst out laughing, leaning his forehead against Remus's chest and shaking with mirth. He shook his head, trying desperately to reel it in. Flirting did not come naturally to him, and he always felt incredibly foolish for trying it. When he pulled back, his face was flushed and rather silly goon grin was plastered on his lips. Regulus slipped an arm through Remus's and allowed himself to be led from the room while his brother and Potter gaped after them. Good for them, said Peter, nodding appreciatively. I think they're a good match, don't you? They probably have a lot in common. Are you high? Sirius retorted, eyes blown wide. Not yet, but I did bring... I love Peter. Potter cleared his throat and leaned closer to Sirius. Did you know Remus liked blokes? No, but I didn't expect Regulus to admit he does either, Sirius admitted, frowning in concern. He isn't out to many people. Wait, do you? Potter checked, brows furrowing. Sirius turned to him, clearly disconcerted. I don't know. Do you? Peter piped up. I do. As the door closed behind him, Remus cackled with laughter. Oh, Peter, they've completely lost the plot. Regulus grinned up at him. How long are they planning to keep this up? How long are you planning to keep this up? I figure it will take Sirius at least 2 weeks to sort himself out, Remus replied with a huff of amusement. He eyed Regulus with a wry grin. I give James 3 days, tops. What does Potter have to do with this? I thought you were trying to see if Sirius was interested, Regulus asked, shaking his head. I don't fancy Potter. Remus shrugged. That's a shame. He's quite a catch. I mean, he's fit, obviously, Regulus agreed, focusing on the tile lining on the hallway. Obviously, Remus repeated, nudging Regulus's shoulder. Regulus shook his head. I just don't like him. He's too arrogant and a complete prat. True, Remus hummed. He led the way downstairs, then out towards the back garden. Still holding Regulus's arm, he tugged him forward towards the swing. He's also the kindest, gentlest, and most loyal bloke I've ever met. Generous to a fault, fearless, and devoted to a moral high ground. So you date him, Regulus huffed, rolling his eyes. Chuckling softly, Remus settled into the bench swing and gestured to the other end. When Regulus took a seat, Remus tucked him closer and leaned down until his head rested on Remus's lap. Now you listen to me, Regulus. I know that James would be a wonderful boyfriend, but he needs far more attention than I can handle. He's aggressively affectionate person, and I prefer my space, and it just wouldn't work. Regulus looked up at him. Sirius is the same way. It's different with Sirius, though, Remus refuted, shaking his head. He rocked the swing slowly, gardening his fingers through Regulus's hair. I don't understand, Regulus admitted, sighing heavily. Remus laughed. I don't either. It's just different. You'll have to take my word for it. Leaning into Remus's administration, Regulus closed his eyes and smiled. That feels good. Feel free to keep it up. I meant what I said. Long hair on blokes looks incredibly attractive, Remus teased, twirling his fingers in Regulus's hair. He chuckled at the satisfied look on Regulus' face. You know, if this thing with Sirius doesn't work out. Definitely, Remus. Name the time and place. Regulus agreed, winking at him. Thank you for listening. I am, again, sorry for laughing. 2 chapters in one day. You are, I suppose, lucky. I just love these 2 chapters, and I just think they should be listened together. So, here you go. Have a very nice day. My cat is still on my lap, so that's great. Have a nice day, and, well, bye.